In the winter of 1959, 9 young adventurers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute in Sverdlovsk, now Ekaterinburg, embarked on a daring journey into the Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia. Led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, an engineering student and seasoned mountaineer, the group aimed to conquer Mount Otorten, a remote peak in the northern Urals. The team comprised 8 students and 1 instructor, all skilled in hiking and skiing, united by their passion for exploration. Their names were Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova 22, Lyudmila Dubinina 20, Rustem Slobodin 23, Alexander Kolevatov 24, Yuri Krivonishenko 23, Yuri Doroshenko 21, Nikolay Bobrignol 24, and Semyon Zolotaryev 37. Dyatlov, known for his meticulous planning and leadership, had organized the expedition with precision, mapping a route through the rugged terrain and ensuring ample provisions. The group's goal was to reach Otorten by early February, a challenging trek that would test their endurance and skills. Each member brought unique strengths: Kolmogorova's resilience, Dubinina's enthusiasm, Slobodin's problem-solving, Kolevatov's calm endurance, Krivonishenko's humor, Doroshenko's drive, the Bobrignol's engineering expertise, and Zolotaryev's survival experience as the group's instructor. Their collective experience in the Soviet wilderness gave them confidence, despite the harsh winter conditions. On January 25, 1959, the hikers began their journey, traveling by train and bus to Ivdel, a small town in the northern Urals. From there, a truck took them to Vizay, a remote village marking the edge of civilization. The biting cold and heavy snow were immediate challenges, but the group was undeterred, accustomed to such conditions. They documented their progress in diaries and photographs, capturing their excitement and the stark beauty of the snow-covered landscape. Their plan was to trek through the wilderness, establish a base camp, and ascend Otorten, returning by mid-February. The Urals, with their unforgiving winters, were a formidable adversary. The group faced sub-zero temperatures and unpredictable weather, yet their spirits remained high. They set out from Vizay on January 27th, skiing through deep snow and dense forests, their camaraderie evident in shared laughter and songs. By January 31, they reached the base of Kholat Syakhl, a mountain near Otorten, where they set up camp on a gentle slope. This location, later known as Dyatlov Pass, would become the stage for one of the 20th century's most enduring mysteries. The hikers' diaries revealed their optimism, with entries describing the stunning vistas and their determination to reach Otorten. They were aware of the risks: avalanches, extreme cold, and isolation, but their preparation and experience gave them confidence. As they settled into their tent on February 1, 1959, they had no inkling of the tragedy that awaited. The group's final photographs, taken that day, showed smiling faces and a snow-covered camp, a haunting contrast to the events that would soon unfold. On February 1, 1959, the Dyatlov group pitched their tent on the slopes of Kholat Syakhl, a strategic choice to avoid the denser forests below and potential avalanche risks higher up. The weather, however, was deteriorating rapidly. A fierce blizzard swept through the Urals, bringing gale-force winds and near-zero visibility. Temperatures plummeted below -30 degrees Celsius, testing the limits of even these seasoned adventurers. The group huddled in their sturdy canvas tent designed to withstand harsh conditions and waited for the storm to subside. The hikers' diaries, later recovered, detailed their efforts to maintain morale. They cooked meals on a small stove, shared stories, and planned their ascent to Otorten, just a day's trek away. Despite the storm's intensity, they felt secure, relying on their equipment and collective experience. The tent was anchored firmly, and their supplies, food, clothing, and survival gear were sufficient for several days. They believed the worst of the weather would pass by morning, allowing them to continue. However, the night of February 1st marked a turning point. Something catastrophic occurred, forcing the group to abandon their shelter in a panic. The exact trigger remains unknown, but the evidence suggests a sudden, overwhelming event. The hikers slashed their tent from the inside, fleeing into the blizzard without coats, boots, or adequate clothing. Footprints in the snow, later found by searches, showed some were barefoot or in socks, an unthinkable act for experienced mountaineers in such conditions. The group's behavior defied logic. They left behind essential gear, jackets, gloves, and skis scattered in the tent. The footprints led down the slope toward a forested area 1.5 kilometers away, suggesting a frantic escape. Some tracks indicated the hikers split up, moving in different directions, as if disoriented or fleeing a threat. The scene painted a picture of chaos, but no external signs of violence, such as blood or struggle, were evident. Investigators later speculated about hypothermia's role. In extreme cold, paradoxical undressing a phenomenon where victims, feeling warm due to nerve damage, removed clothing could explain the hiker's state. Yet, this alone didn't account for the slashed tent or the urgency of their flight. The group's last known actions, documented through their diaries and photos, showed no distress, only anticipation for the next day's climb. Their final entry, dated February 1st, described setting up camp and the worsening weather, with no hint of fear. The Mansi, indigenous people of the region, were familiar with the area's harsh winters and later assisted in the search. Early speculation about their involvement was quickly dismissed, as no evidence linked them to the incident. The hikers' decision to camp on Kholat Syakhl rather than in the sheltered forest below puzzled investigators. Some theories suggested they misjudged the terrain, but Dyatlov's expertise made this unlikely. As the storm raged, the group faced an unknown force that drove them from safety into the deadly cold. By mid-February 1959, concern grew among the hikers' families and the Ural Polytechnic Institute. The group was due to return by February 12th, but no word had arrived. Their last communication diary entries and photographs from February 1st offered no clues of distress. Alarmed, the families contacted authorities, prompting the Soviet government to launch a search operation on February 14th. The remote location and ongoing blizzard complicated efforts, but the urgency was palpable. Search teams, including volunteers, students, and military personnel, scoured the northern Urals. The vast, snow-covered landscape posed immense challenges, with deep drifts and treacherous terrain. Initial searches focused on Mount Otorten, the group's intended destination, but yielded no results. The teams battled freezing temperatures and low visibility, aware that time was critical. The hikers, if alive, would be struggling to survive in the brutal conditions. On February 26th, a breakthrough occurred. A search party discovered the group's tent on the slopes of Kholat Syakhl, eerily intact but abandoned. The tent was slashed open from the inside, a detail that baffled investigators. Inside, the hikers' belongings, food, clothing, and equipment were left untouched, as if the group had fled in haste. Footprints in the snow led away from the camp, some made by bare feet or socks, defying the logic of survival in sub-zero temperatures. Following the tracks, searches found the first bodies 1.5 kilometers away, near a cedar tree in a forested area. Yuri Krivonishenko and Yuri Doroshenko were found, barely clothed, with severe frostbite. Their position suggested they had tried to start a fire, with broken branches and signs of desperation. Krivonishenko's hands were burned, indicating he had grasped hot embers in a frantic attempt to stay warm. Doroshenko's body lay nearby, as if he had collapsed while seeking shelter. Days later, the bodies of Igor Dyatlov, Zenata Kolmogorova, and Rustem Slobodin were found closer to the tent, as if they had attempted to return. Dyatlov was face up, clutching a branch, with frostbite but no major trauma. Kolmogorova's hands were frozen in a claw-like grip, and Slobodin had a fractured skull, possibly from a fall. The absence of external wounds ruled out an attack, deepening the mystery. Why had they fled without their gear? The search continued, but hope of finding survivors faded. The remaining four hikers, Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolevatov, Nikolay Thibault-Brignol, and Semyon Zolotaryov were missing, buried under deep snow. The initial discoveries raised more questions than answers. The slashed tent, barefoot tracks, and abandoned supplies suggested a sudden, irrational panic. The search teams, haunted by the desolate scene, pressed on, determined to uncover the fate of the missing hikers in early May 1959. As the snow began to melt, searchers made a chilling discovery in a ravine 75 meters from the cedar tree. The bodies of Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolevatov, Nikolay Bobrignol, and Semyon Zolotaryev were found, partially buried under 4 meters of snow. Their condition was shocking, revealing injuries that defied easy explanation and fueled decades of speculation. Dubinina's body was particularly disturbing. Her tongue and eyes were missing, likely due to decomposition or scavenging animals. A detail often sensationalized, but consistent with prolonged exposure. She had multiple broken ribs and severe internal injuries, yet no external wounds. The Bobrignol suffered a fractured skull, and Zolotaryev had crushed ribs, injuries, suggesting immense force but no surface trauma. Kolevatov's body showed less severe damage, but his proximity to the others indicated they had died together. The injuries to Dubinina, the Bobrignol, and Zolotaryev were unlike those of the others. The force required to cause such internal damage comparable to a car accident was inexplicable in the absence of external marks. Investigators ruled out an animal attack, as no bite marks or claw wounds were present. The ravine's steep drop suggested a possible fall, but the injury severity and selectivity puzzled experts, adding to the mystery. Some clothing items, particularly those of Krivonishenko and Zolotaryev, showed traces of beta radiation. This was unusual, as the Urals were not known for radioactive contamination. Krivonishenko's engineering work and Zolotaryev's military background may have exposed them to low-level radiation, a plausible explanation often overlooked in favor of conspiracy theories. The radiation was minimal and not widespread, yet it became a focal point of speculation. The hikers' behavior remained the central enigma. Why had they fled their tent, leaving behind life-saving gear? Hypothermia-induced paradoxical undressing could explain the lack of clothing, as victims in advanced stages often feel warm and disrobe. However, this didn't account for the slashed tent or the group's scattered flight. The footprints suggested disorientation, but the lack of external threats, no signs of strangers, animals, or avalanche deepened the mystery. The Soviet investigation, launched in February 1959, struggled to make sense of the evidence. Initial theories considered the Mansi, but their cooperation and lack of motive cleared them. The absence of struggle marks or forced entry into the tent ruled out human attackers. The searches, shaken by the gruesome discoveries, began to suspect an extraordinary event had driven the hikers to their deaths, setting the stage for decades of debate. The Soviet investigation, concluded in May 1959, attributed the hikers' deaths to a compelling natural force, a vague explanation that satisfied few. The lack of clarity coupled with the slashed tent, bizarre injuries, and radiation traces sparked widespread speculation. The official report favored an avalanche, suggesting a snow slab triggered panic, forcing the hikers to flee. However, the terrain showed no signs of avalanche activity, and the tent's internal slashing contradicted this theory. The avalanche hypothesis posited that a small snow slide startled the group, leading to a chaotic escape. Yet, the slopes, gentle incline, and lack of debris undermined this idea. The hikers' experience made it unlikely they would misjudge the terrain or abandon their gear. Critics argued that an avalanche wouldn't explain the severe internal injuries or the absence of external wounds, particularly for Dubinina and Zolotaryev. Alternative theories emerged, fueled by the Cold War context. Some speculated the hikers stumbled upon a secret military test, possibly involving weapons or radiation. The traces of beta radiation on clothing supported this idea, but no evidence of military activity in the area was found. Krivonishenko and Zolotaryev's backgrounds offered a simpler explanation, yet the theory of a cover-up persisted, driven by the Soviet government's opacity. In 2013, Donny Ikar's book Dead Mountain proposed a katabatic wind, a powerful, gravity-driven wind as the cause. Such winds, common in mountainous regions, could have created disorienting noise and cold, prompting panic. This theory explained the slashed tent and hasty flight, but struggled to account for the injuries or radiation. While plausible, it remained unproven, adding to the case's complexity. Paranormal theories also gained traction, particularly the idea of a yeti or unknown creature. The severe injuries and missing body parts attributed to decomposition fueled such speculation, but no footprints or physical evidence supported it. Other theories suggested extraterrestrial involvement or local folklore curses, reflecting the case's eerie allure but lacking scientific grounding. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the investigation, responding to public interest and advances. In forensics, they reaffirmed the avalanche theory, using modern simulations to argue a small slab could have caused panic. However, the investigation failed to address the internal injuries, radiation, or missing body parts, leaving many unconvinced. The Dyatlov Pass incident remained an unsolved puzzle, with each theory offering partial answers but no definitive truth. The Dyatlov Pass incident has endured as one of the 20th century's most haunting mysteries, captivating researchers, writers, and the public for over 6 decades. Its blend of tragedy, unanswered questions, and eerie details has made it a cultural phenomenon, inspiring books, documentaries, films, and podcasts. Works like Dead Mountain 2013 and the film Devil's Pass 2013 have kept the story alive, blending fact and speculation to engage new audiences. The hikers Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, Lyudmila Dubinina, Rustem Slobodin, Alexander Kolevatov, Yuri Krivonishenko, Yuri Doroshenko, Nikolai Thibault-Brignol, and Semyon Zolotaryov have become symbols of adventure and tragedy. Their courage in facing the Ural wilderness contrasts with their inexplicable fate, resonating with those drawn to unsolved mysteries. Public fascination stems from the case's unanswered questions. Why did the hikers flee? What caused their injuries? What explains the radiation? The Soviet investigation's vague conclusion and the 2019 reinvestigation's failure to resolve key issues have fueled ongoing debate. Social media, blogs, and forums continue to dissect the evidence, with amateur sleuths proposing new theories, from infrasound-induced panic to secret experiments. Scientific studies have offered some clarity. Hypothermia and paradoxical undressing explain the lack of clothing, while decomposition accounts for missing body parts. Yet, the internal injuries and radiation remain contentious, with no theory avalanche, katabatic wind, or military mishap fully explaining all aspects. The absence of definitive evidence keeps the case open to interpretation, ensuring its place in popular culture. The Dyatlov Pass incident reminds us of nature's unpredictability and humanity's quest for answers. The hiker's story, marked by bravery and loss, continues to inspire investigation and storytelling. As new technologies and perspectives emerge, the hope of solving the mystery persists, but the truth may remain elusive. The pass, now named for Igor Dyatlov, stands as a haunting testament to an enigma that may never be fully resolved. The Dyatlov Pass incident transcends a mere mystery, embodying the human spirit's resilience and vulnerability. Each hiker brought unique qualities to the expedition. Igor Dyatlov's leadership was rooted in his engineering precision, evident in his detailed route planning. Zinaida Kolmogorova's diaries revealed her reflective nature, capturing the group's camaraderie. Lyudmila Dubinina's enthusiasm, shown in her eagerness to document the journey, while Rustem Slobodin's practicality ensured the group's equipment was sound. Alexander Kolevatov's quiet endurance, Yuri Krivonishenko's lighthearted humor, Yuri Doroshenko's ambition, Nikolai Thibault-Brignol's technical expertise, and Semyon Zolotaryov's survival skills created a cohesive team, making their fate all the more tragic. The Ural Mountains' harsh environment played a significant role. The region's isolation, coupled with extreme weather, challenged even the most prepared. The group's decision to camp on Kolet Syakhl, possibly two, avoid forested hazards, reflected their experience but also their miscalculation of the slope's risks. Modern analyses suggest infrasound low-frequency vibrations from the wind could have induced panic. Though this remains speculative, the incident's cultural impact extends beyond investigations. Memorials in Ekaterinburg honor the hikers, and their story has inspired art, music, and literature. Russian folklore, including tales of the Mansi's sacred mountains, adds a layer of mystique, though no evidence links these to the tragedy. The case's global reach is evident in online communities where enthusiasts share 3D reconstructions and simulations to test theories. Recent forensic advancements, like 3D modeling of the terrain, have bolstered the avalanche theory, but skepticism persists due to the injury's severity. The radiation, likely from the hiker's prior exposure, remains a red herring, often overstated in popular narratives. The Dyatlov Pass incident endures as a cautionary tale of nature's power and testament to humanity's drive to unravel the unknown, ensuring the hiker's legacy lives on.